Hey everyone, welcome to the program, WRSA Radio. I'm your host, G1. As always, I hope you're having a good week. It's been a very productive one for me. I've been rolling out some new software that I'm really happy with. Go check out XTalk, XTOC, over on YouTube at the link I'm putting into the description of this week's video. It's some really cool stuff. I think you'll like it. We a lot to get into this week. First on the block, it's episode 250 for the old program, which is a milestone, I guess you would say. It's a very cool thing for me, and I have to kind of pat myself on the back a little bit, as I had no idea when I started off doing this show that I would still be doing it for as long as I have, and with no real reward other than the satisfaction that this program will stand as a testament to people in the future that, well, some of us gave it our best effort to document things as we saw them and warn about the possibilities, both good and bad. I absolutely appreciate all of you who have been with me and for the long time, and people who have come along the way. I can't really express exactly what I think about, the folks that will sit down and listen to the show. I think it's great. I mean, it's extremely rewarding. Just to have you guys out there and know that people will pay attention. People will pay attention. I don't make any money from this channel because the channel is just not popular enough to get revenue from advertising. You guys can see the numbers. I don't have a whole lot of followers. I don't get a whole lot of views, and that means that even though there might be some advertising in the videos that gets put on by the platforms, I don't really get a lot. It's like maybe 15, 20 cents a week. Okay. And I put the merch store into place last week, and I'm happy to say that one person bought a t-shirt. So thank you for that. You know who you are, but I did want to give you a shout out to say thank you. Hopefully more of you guys will head over there and hook yourself up with a shirt. I have 4 designs up right now, and I'll be pushing out more as I get time to put them together for you guys. And also feel free to leave some suggestions in the comments. Just be aware that, copyright might apply and might keep me from using some images or, working on your idea if you come up with something. But I'll be happy to put anything out there that you guys might want to see. Any images that I've used in the show, or what I've put on as thumbnails or whatever, memes that you see over on the mothership. Some of those things we can use. Just depends on what it is, like I said. Anyway, all of that out of the way, let's get to the main course this week. I've been dealing with a lot of things in my volunteer efforts. Like I said, I'm working with some software for use in those endeavors, and there's been some discussion in those groups about hardware and capabilities. And none of the details of that discussion are really important for this conversation, so I'll skip all that. But what came to light in this discussion was something that really I'm kind of seeing in a wider scope, particularly around this conflict with Iran. I'm confronted by the thought that we should never underestimate the ability of people to vehemently and forcefully disagree with ideas simply because those ideas are ones that they didn't come up with. Now, they will equally attack and disagree with ideas simply because they're perfectly happy with staying in the land of good enough. And sometimes the land of good enough is fine. That's okay. But this idea that, well, this is good enough, why should we adopt this new thing? How much better really is it? That's not necessarily a good place to be. Now, of course, the converse is also true. There are people who are never happy with good enough and are pushing and wanting something new just because it's something new. Well, this is the latest and greatest thing, and I've got to have this. That's not good either. The fact is that in every disagreement, there are people who have all kinds of motivations, and some of those are based on logic and reason. Some of them are based solely on emotional comfort. Some of them are based on monetary or corruption motivations too, but that's beside the point. But leaders have to be mindful of all these things and try to make decisions based on all of those factors. And that means that sometimes the people who have emotional attachments to something are going to be, big mad or big sad because you didn't do what they wanted them to do. And other times you have to look at the logic and reason people and say, hey, you know what? You make a good case. We just can't sell it to the emotional people. At least yet. It may just have to wait for a little while. We can't get over this hang up. And in this conflict with Iran, we have a very wide range of responses, even among people on the right, the political right. And I'm calling it a conflict, as I explained last week, because that is the metric that we have used over the last 40 years or so. Even the use of that word, however, has become kind of a source of debate and disagreement and memes among a lot of people. But I decided, I picked a definition, and I'm going to stick with that until the situation changes. Until there are boots on the ground, American boots on the ground in Iran, I'm just going to call it a conflict, okay? So in this conflict, we have a wide range of responses. We have people on the far right who never trusted Trump, and they're saying, see, he's a traitor, he's Israel's puppet, so we hate him even more now. Okay, that's totally fine. That's fair enough. You've got that view of it. And then we got people on the left side of the right, the more centrist side, saying, well, this is not what I voted for. I wanted to get away from endless intervention, so I'm angry too. But there is, however, a really big chunk of people that are perfectly fine with what the president is doing. And if you're to believe the polling about that, it's something like 80% of those people who identify as Republicans or on the right saying that they agree with this. And what that means is that while you may have logic and reason on your side, or maybe even you've just got emotional attachment to whatever your idea is, that we should not be doing this for Israel, or whatever reason you think that we are doing this for, the president's decided that he's going to go with the support of that big chunk of people who agree with him. And the bottom line is I don't see that needle moving anytime in the near term, because I think that Trump is okay with getting that support, and while that support lasts, and I think that it's going to last long enough for him to get the time in this conflict that he wants. In other words, I think he's expecting to wrap this up here in the next week or so, and he knows that he can get the support of that big chunk of people for that time frame. I think he's, however, I do think he's growing tired of negative feedback that he's getting. He's willing to kind of entertain that middle of his base for that little time frame, but he can be moved by that negative feedback, and for some reason that draws a lot of criticism. But I think it's kind of an upside to his narcissism. Narcissism. Maybe I coined a new phrase there. It's an upside that he can have his mind changed. It's important for leaders to be flexible and not stick so ardently to, a previous plan when the conditions have shifted, and shifted a lot in some cases. So let's look at this conflict and the information that is churning out there, because I'm reminded very much so about a time not too far back when we were faced with a very similar deluge of information from all over the spectrum about the course of events. This reminds me very much of the beginning of the war in Ukraine. We were told by people in the media, in the pundits, in the blogosphere, in videos, all the whole range of people on both sides of the political spectrum, didn't matter. We were told that Russia was winning, that Russia was losing, that Ukraine was getting slaughtered and would be gone in a few weeks, that Russia was getting slaughtered and would be unable to continue in a matter of weeks. Russia was a juggernaut that could not be stopped. Russia had vastly superior military tech that was embarrassing Western military systems and equipment. That Western equipment was really a game changer, and if we just gave them more of it, that it would turn the tide. So on. It was just all over the map. And again, from people on both sides of the political spectrum. And they were all, it didn't matter in general if you were on the right or in general if you were on the left. There was no consistency of opinion based off of your political beliefs. It was just what was your specific viewpoint of something, and that's how that manifested from all these different people. I recall telling people that I believed that Russia would ultimately achieve their goals, but the conflict would cost them far more than they really should have paid to reach that end. And time will still tell on that prediction, because here we are 4 years down the road, and the war's still going on. Now, Russia has gained ground, and no doubt, I think they've accomplished some of their goals. But Ukraine is still in place. The government of Ukraine is still there. So, based off that, ask yourself, do you think Ukraine is winning this war? Some people telling you that Ukraine is losing the war, and they're going to collapse at any moment because Russia has achieved some of their goals, albeit at great cost. They're about ready to make the final move that topples them. Some of those people that are saying that are the same people telling you that the U.S. is losing the conflict in Iran because Iran's government is still in place and the U.S. is spending a lot of money but has only achieved some of their goals. How different is that from the conflict in Ukraine again? And let's not even get into the discussion about the vastly different timetables involved here with Ukraine versus Russia versus Iran. See, the issue here is that these two situations are so open to interpretation that they've become this kind of quantum conflict. It's all up to the observer to decide what they are and what their current state is. It all depends on who's looking at it. Both the Russians and the U.S. laid out publicly very loose and open sets of conditions that they were trying to achieve. They didn't even necessarily say these are goals. So this is what we're trying to do. They're so loose and open to interpretation that at any point both of them can say, "Hey, we have come to the conclusion that we have achieved our goals. All these things have been met, and we can walk away from it. Hey, we're done. We won." Now the Russians at least started out that way. They've made the mistake of getting themselves too stuck in, so it's turned into a good old-fashioned war of attrition. Which is a disaster on both sides, but that's something we've covered before, so we don't need to go into that ad nauseum. But I think this is a new thing, though, a new geopolitical trend, and maybe it happened in the past on a much smaller scale, so perhaps it's not entirely new, but for it to be happening on this large of a stage, this grand of a stage, I think is something that is novel. We got a little bit of a preview with the 12-day conflict with Iran last year. We fling some missiles and bombs at each other and walk away, and both sides saying they did what they needed to do, so it was kind of a win. I don't think it was really a win at all, for the record, at least from Iran's perspective. But that's just me. Simply not dying is a win, I guess, depending on how you measure things. It's an asterisk, but it is a type of win. But moving on. So what's the average person to do with all of this? I don't like that we have attacked Iran, mostly because we're doing it for the benefit of somebody else. But also because it makes me very disappointed in Donald Trump. I didn't believe that he would allow himself to be drug into this type of conflict. And there are many people out there who share that same kind of thoughts on it. And that's all irrespective of how the attack is actually going. Regardless, to me, it's really irrelevant to me how this attack turns out for the most part. If we achieve some goals, that's fine. If it achieves all of its goals, that's great too. If it results in more and more attacks on other countries in the region and on Israel, and the cost of oil goes through the roof for a long time, that's bad, obviously. Okay? I don't want that to happen, but that's all within the control of the U.S. If we claim that we've met our goals and walk away, the opposite of Russia, if we do that and Iran continues to shoot missiles at everyone, well, then they're the ones that end up looking really, really bad. So this all moves at our pace. In other words, when we stop and we say that we've won and we've stopped, Iran will stop. It'll all tamper down, at least for a while. So even if that short-term impact is very, very negative, it won't matter. Because the bigger problem is that we didn't do this for our goals. We did this for the goals of Israel. And that's far more disappointing, at least in the political spectrum and the grand scheme of things, than anything else from this. And obviously, I say that with the caveat that the people who died in this fight on both sides obviously matter. To them and their families, it's the worst thing that could have happened. I should not have to make that distinction, but if we lose sight of that, then we lose sight of what the really cost of all of this stuff is. And that's what really kind of makes the disappointment even greater. We are the United States, and for all of our faults and horrible qualities, we got a lot of good qualities and good characteristics as well. And those things put us at the top of the food chain in the ecosystem of countries. We set the pace. We're the ones that should be the example, and we're the ones that everyone should be looking to on how they should carry on their activities. And yet, we consistently fail at this. Consistently let the corruptions of personal sin dirty us and bring us to the most disgraceful places. And we're critical of other countries who are doing the very same things that we are doing. It's all this kind of morality based on the perspective of the viewer. So have we reached peak quantum morality as well? That's all the time I have for this week. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab, Nice Crew, and the Mothership. And if you can, support the channel. Get yourself a t-shirt on the merch store. I will see you on the next episode.